A surprising first round is over, so let's dive into some sleepers for the second round of the 2025 NBA Draft. Javon Small is the number 40 prospect on my big board. The West Virginia senior guard averaged about 19 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists this season. Before this year, he was at East Carolina and later at Oklahoma State. In the NBA, I believe that Small will be able to dribble, pass, and shoot to some extent. Basically, the 22-year-old will be a reliable enough decision maker while pitching in across the board. Focusing on his translation into the league, I believe that Small will add value on and off the ball. He's a steady scorer and passer in the pick and roll, and he maintains a sturdy baseline of production. At this point in the draft, it's mostly about situation, although I trust that Small can return early second round value. I think that he'd be an interesting fit on teams such as the Toronto Raptors, the Golden State Warriors, the Charlotte Hornets, or the Phoenix Suns. I previously highlighted Small's game on the Floor and Ceiling Substack, so make sure to check that out. I've been posting scouting reports and other forms of content over there all year long, and I'll continue to have even better content going forward. The link is also in the bio. Chaz Lanier is my favorite movement shooting prospect in this draft class. The Tennessee guard drilled 40.5% of his catch and shoots on 242 attempts this season, so that's incredibly high volume. As a whole, he attempted 16.2 threes per 100 possessions. Lanier's NBA skill is clearly his off-ball and movement three-point shooting. Going forward, he'll need to keep working on leveraging that scoring gravity to make decisions off the catch. At this point, Lanier barely passes, although he doesn't turn the ball over either. Thinking about his scoring, his at-rim finishing has to improve as well. Lanier isn't much of a defender, but his size is fine, and that's not his calling card anyway. The 23-year-old should be a target for teams who need shooting. Think of him kind of like an Isaiah Joe. Maybe the Orlando Magic or New Orleans Pelicans could be interested, but honestly, I think that Lanier's pitch is pretty straightforward and could be appealing for most organizations. The second round of the NBA draft is bound to get older, and Amari Williams is an example of this. He's 23 years old, but the Kentucky center has a very good chance of hearing his name called in the second round. In my opinion, that should happen in the 30s or early 40s. Williams' NBA skill is his passing, and I really think that he should be a priority for a two-way contract. The British big likes to get the ball above the break or on the blocks to scan the floor, find his cutters, usually over the top of the defense, or get into the paint through post-ups if he wants to score. Kentucky played through Williams a lot this season, and he was a genuine playmaker for his position. I could see the Brooklyn Nets, for example, being interested. Williams plays out of handoffs and dribble handoffs, but he can also keep and drive. The former Drexel prospect can make some passes in transition as well. Offensively, the challenge will largely be going from posting up to finishing plays. Right now, Williams operates with his back to the basket way too often, but he has a pretty good ground level of skill that I feel comfortable with, and he's a pretty big and skilled body. Alijah Martin is a heady, stubborn slasher who is constantly putting pressure on the paint. The Florida guard is an excellent vertical athlete relative to his size. There's no doubt that Martin plays bigger than he truly is. However, there are still size limitations given that he's under 6'2" and he largely profiles as an off-ball guard or a tiny wing. Really, Martin doesn't need the ball in his hands. In the NBA, I feel like he'd be attacking the rim out of closeouts or off the catch. The Florida prospect would need to do this quickly, and he would need to keep making his threes. Martin shot 35% from deep this season, and he averaged 36% from three for his entire college career. At Florida, he posted about 14 points per game. On the defensive end, Martin plays tough and again, larger than he is, but like with his offense, his size ultimately constrains him positionally or just in certain situations as a whole. Thinking about this draft, Martin in a Lou Dort sort of role in Oklahoma City could be interesting, the Milwaukee Bucks playing off the ball as well, or the Chicago Bulls in their high-tempo offense. Dylan Cardwell is this draft class's dunker extraordinaire. The Auburn big lives almost exclusively at the basket. As we're seeing here, he dunks nearly everything. Cardwell averaged only 5 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 1.6 assists per game. Obviously, those figures are tiny, but this is a projection more so based on role. The 23-year-old is someone who I'm considering a priority undrafted free agent. Cardwell is basically strictly a play finisher, and yes, he did this on incredibly low volume at 13.5% usage, but still, he was very efficient, and on defense, he was also productive. The Auburn big averaged 1.4 blocks per game, which just about lines up with his career average. That went alongside a 7.4 block rate. An interesting note here is that Cardwell attended the same high school as Ace Bailey. The Jazz have the 43rd and 53rd picks, but I would actually rather see him play in a fast, dynamic offense like the Indiana Pacers, who have the 54th pick. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support during this entire draft cycle. And head on over to the Floor and Ceiling Substack for a look at a few more guys who I think would be interesting targets in the second round.